Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Eiffel Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G. This is a show all about Paris. And this is where I'd usually say, sponsored by... But no, all the sponsors have pulled out at the moment. It's a sign of how being an online kind of creator in Paris has changed. But that's alright. We can say it's brought to you by the lovely Patreon members. So if you like this kind of stuff, sign up with them. Patreon.com/The Eiffel Tower for loads of bonuses, including daily releases from my audiobook. But what we're going to talk about today, we're going to dive a bit deeper into this world of people who pretty much work online a whole lot, sharing stories about Paris in different ways. Today I've got three fantastic guests, three women in Paris from three different countries with three different jobs who have all been quite severely affected by this pandemic. So one by one you're going to hear first Karin Olsson, or Karin Olsson, a Swede who runs Paris in 4 months. She's an influencer and Instagram. I'll talk about her more in a second. After her, it's Lindsay Tremuda, been on the show a bunch of times and has a new book coming out. It was supposed to be published mere days ago, but that was also put on hold, as with so many other things. And then lastly, it's Sophie Nadeau, a British woman who runs Solo Sophie, a very, very popular travel blog, and it was her first time on the show, and it was great to talk to her as well. So three people from three different corners of the world talking about Paris and their careers. So we're going to start off with Karin. As I said, Paris in 4 months. She has close to 1 million people following her on Instagram, which sounds like a lot of pressure to me. You can go and check her out, Paris in 4 months. As we're chatting, she has a website as well. With Karin and with all these guests today, I think the best call to action I can give you is make sure you're following them online and, add supportive comments here and there. Hey, Karin, how you doing? Heard you on the Eiffel Tower. Hang in there. Or whatever. You get the kind of thing I mean, and I mean that for all today's guests. So we'll start off with Karin from the left bank, talking about fashion, pandemics, and exactly what we can do during this lockdown. And just a note, all the music you're hearing is from Aaron, from Slim and the Beast. You might recognize it from my audiobook. It's the exact same stuff. Let's start off with Karin. Here we go. Karin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I hear you loud and clear.
Brilliant. And that means that these audio beams are heading all the way to the left bank, where I believe you are sitting right now. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's true.
Well, let's, I figure before we get into today's topic, I just wanted to say, how you doing? It's been a long time since we've chatted. I think you're on the show in January last year.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now.
How you doing?
Time goes so fast. I'm good. Despite everything that's going on, I'm happy to have a home and a roof and food in my fridge, so I can't complain.
Right. Is it driving you, like you, similar to me, I think, you're in a fairly small apartment in Paris. Mm-hmm. Is that, but are you going stir crazy there by yourself?
I'm actually very happy that I'm living by myself at the moment, because sharing 30 square meters or something in that area can be quite challenging. I can imagine. I think you know more than me about that. So it has its pros and cons. And on the one hand, I'm very happy to be by myself and have peace and quiet. And on the other hand, I just started talking to my mirror. So
yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. What about I heard in Sweden, Swedes are very good at social distancing anyway, right?
I think that comes natural to us. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe because I remember when I used to live there and people would line up for the buses or whatever, there'd always be 2 meters between them anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're naturally very good at keeping away from people, no?
Yeah, I think people are I always said this because everyone kept asking me when I moved to Paris, people kept asking me about my biggest culture shock and how it was to sort of interact with Parisians because they're so cold. Mm. And that part I never really got, since I come from Sweden where people are already pretty keeping their distance, not cold, but still private,
Well, you've been here for ages now, and how long have you, when did you move to Paris?
Time. Let's just say a long time. Yeah?
Okay, longer than me anyway, right? I think we talked about it on the last episode, but
Probably.
do you still think that, or do you agree when people say that Parisians are cold?
I think you have to earn their trust and also their engaging with them. I don't think they're people. It's sort of like in a relationship when someone is paying a little bit hard to get, I feel.
Right, yeah.
But no, once you get to know them, they're not cold. They're just keeping to themselves more in certain places, which I can relate to since we do the same in Sweden.
Yeah. I think the same thing about Swedes. I think like when they warm up, you're like a friend for life with them. And I guess it's the same in Paris too. Interesting.
I think like the difference between like Paris and Sweden is maybe like Swedish people, I always say like, we just don't make the first step. If you make the first step, we will be warm and happy back, I feel. I don't feel like it's exactly the same with Parisians. It's a little bit more work that has to be done. But once you get in there, they're very, very warm and lovely.
That is a lovely sentiment, and I agree with you. But let's switch the topic to today's. What everyone's talking about really is this lockdown. I'm kind of interested. First, I'm really interested. Like, are you getting out very much and seeing the left bank? And I mean, not exploring, but are you going to the shops and all that kind of stuff, or are you?
I mean, I've gone to the supermarket, like the big one, about I think 2 times or like once a week maximum. I'm a little bit like wary about those things, so I haven't really yet, and I haven't figured out, maybe you can help me, I haven't really figured out when you're allowed to just go for a little walk.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it now, because this is like a public service announcement to everybody. Because I too was confused. I thought you weren't allowed to go out between 10 and 7 no matter what, right?
Yeah.
I got sent back by town hall workers. They send me home and said, you're not allowed to be out. Until 2 days ago, I got stopped by police at 9 in the morning. And I said, okay, let's set the record straight here. Can I walk out during the day? And they said, absolutely. You can absolutely go for walking exercise, but you can't go jogging. So anytime
that's
of the day,
what my friend told me as well.
Yeah. Okay. Confirmed by the Montmartre police.
Amazing. I'm gonna spread it to all my friends because I was hearing this as well, and then they were like, no, don't leave your house after 10. So I was like a little bit scared.
That's, I think, just the fact that that you, someone who's been here for a while, and me as well, didn't know, sums up the confusion that a lot of people in Paris are feeling about it. No one really.
I think so too. Yeah.
But what about speaking about confusing times? You work a lot online. You're a freelancer, Instagrammer, influencer, however you want to say it. I can't imagine it's typical days for you right now.
In some ways, I think yes, and in some ways, definitely not. I think that I'm quite used during calmer periods during my work. I'm quite used to working from home. So that's something that I feel super comfortable with. I spend a lot of time at home anyway. So I'm not like one of those people who goes like from an office to all of a sudden working at home. So that part I can do. That's fine. The part that is not so normal is the fact that I usually travel a lot and I usually work with other photographers, and I'm outside a lot and around a lot of people, and that is definitely not happening.
Yeah, I mean, like following you on Instagram, it feels like you're often at events, fashion shows, those kind of things. All that stuff was among the quickest to be shut down.
Everything canceled. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if we rewind a little bit, how does an influencer earn money anyway?
I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. I think there's so many different kinds of influencers. I personally started as a photographer, so it's always been like I started earning money just as a normal photographer, creating and producing photos and images for other brands, companies, people, often for their social media channels. And then it sort of like worked into what I do today, which is more brands and companies coming to me, asking me to create photographs again, but then publishing them on my platform instead.
Right.
So it really, really varies. Sometimes it can be for them, sometimes it's for me.
Sure. And did these people all contact you and go, hey Karen, I'm sorry, we're not going to be using your work anymore? Or was it just dried up naturally, or how did it go?
I think it's sort of around Fashion Week, which happened in February, beginning of March. It sort of started people started talking about it more. People were starting to get a little bit scared. Friends of mine that I have in the industry on the other side working for brands were already saying that our whole budgets for the whole year has been ruined by what's going on in Asia at the moment. And that was in late February, beginning of March, where we didn't know if it was going to come or become what it is today over here, but we already knew that the fashion industry has already been crazy affected by what happened in China already.
Right. And then it just...
And then now,
Yeah. When you're at those fashion shows, by the way, in Paris, do you see all the celebs?
Yeah, a couple every now and then. Yeah, did have a run into Kanye West one time and Natalie Portman. And,
oh my God!
Interesting.
Was Kanye West the one that sticks out as the kind of big showstopper that everyone turns for?
Yeah, that was a bit of a crazy scene.
Did you try and talk to him?
I was actually working. That was in the beginning when I was working as a photographer, and the client really wanted me to get a photo of him. So I walked up to him, believe it or not, and I asked, "Excuse me, sir, could I take your photo?" And he just asked me to wait because he was talking to someone or whatever. And I waited for about like a good solid 15 minutes, which is about a year in that industry during a fashion show. And eventually I got my photo. Oh. And I mean, like, not a photo with me, a photo of him for the client.
Sure. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, but we've gone off topic again.
Sorry.
That's my fault. I get all crazy with celebrities apparently. But okay, I'd be the worst photographer. Okay, so what are you doing now then? If that's all dried up, do you have to get creative to find ways to make money, or is it just what happens?
Yeah, honestly, as of now, I can only speak of like today. I'm trying to take every day at a time, but as of now, I don't have any more work for the foreseeable future, which is a bit scary. And I think it's going to force us and our industry to be more creative and inventive when it comes to ways of making money, I guess.
Do you and your friends who have similar jobs, have you guys sort of been brainstorming on ways to do that, or is it?
Yes, of course. I feel lucky enough to have friends in the same sort of industry, so we can bounce ideas off of each other and everything. But it's scary. Like, for example, I've been thinking about for years now because people have been asking me to buy my photos for prints at home. But even like finding a print shop that is open or going to the post office, everything is so limited that I don't even know how that would be possible. So it's a little bit, it's a very weird time.
Yeah. And does it cross your mind to take like regular job? You know what I mean by regular job? Like,
we already discussed becoming like baristas or waitresses, but that's closed as well. So
oh my gosh.
There's basically nothing we can do. On the other hand, a lot of people are saying that the only connection big brands and companies have today to their end customer is digital and social media. So in that way, I think that maybe, hopefully, once companies sort of embrace this new reality, maybe that will be an option. Who knows?
Does it make you kind of think like there are a lot of products that people use in the house, right? Like, I don't know, like an exercise bike or something. Are you thinking, I've got to start doing the exercise bike adverts from now on?
It hasn't gotten that far yet. No, I don't know. Like, I think that what really, really helped me was that I think last week I started playing around with my camera again.
Yeah.
Like, for a long time, I didn't have my camera and I didn't take any photos, which made me feel, I don't know, I was just feeling really, really down. And just picking up my camera again and getting to be a little bit creative or trying to create something in this limited space has really given me some sort of energy back, I guess.
Cool. It's important, I think. Yeah.
I think so too. I was looking a lot at Lena, like your wife, what she was doing. And like, I think it helps just being creative and continuing with what you love doing, even though you're stuck at home.
Yeah, that's what, like, it's helped. So Karin's referring for everyone at home to Lena is doing like daily watercolor and sketches and stuff like that. And she just sort of did a switch. She said she hasn't painted for like, I think she said like 20 years or something, but she had, so it was something to just switch to. And
exactly, like I haven't done self-portraits since I like years, because now I always work with another photographer, and it really like challenged me and also made me excited to try that again.
That's one of the kind of exciting things that comes. It's like my pub quizzes as well. It's like something you never tried before, but you're forced into it. But I want to ask you, when all this is said and done and everything's back to normal or starts getting back to normal, is there something
knock on wood?
Yeah, right. Is there something that you're especially excited about doing again?
I just want to be outside. Like, I was talking to a few of my friends, and just being allowed, especially since I'm quarantined by myself, just being able to like go for a 5-minute walk with another human being would be really, really nice. Or just being able to meet on a patch of grass, sit down and have lunch together. Oh, just feeling, I know you guys are lucky enough to have a tiny little balcony. And just like feeling the sun on my skin or like fresh air would be very, very nice.
Have you not got you've not got like is the you got windows, right?
I got windows. I have windows, but I just realized probably for the first time that I don't have any direct sunlight since I'm facing like a courtyard. So there's at no point any sun coming into the apartment, which
that sucks.
Yeah, it's starting to get like,
when
I walk now to the supermarket, I'm like walking with my face towards the sky the entire time.
Now you know that you can go out during the day, so go out and get go down to the river or something and say it's exercise. If they get you in trouble, the police, just send them say it was me that told you and I'll take the blame.
We'll just take this recording and like play it for them.
All right. Okay. Best of luck with that. And thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the day that we can do another walk show.
Yeah. And human interaction.
Absolutely. Where are we going to go on the next video walk?
No idea. What do you want to do?
I don't know. We could always do the Ile Saint-Louis again.
Yeah, maybe in springtime or like, springtime is already over. Summertime?
Springtime 2021. I'm penning it down now.
Totally.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
So there you have it. That's Karen Olsen. Check her out, Paris in 4 Months. Her website, parisin4months.com. Next, on to another friend of the show. It's Lindsay Tramuta. She is from Philadelphia, as we talk about briefly in this little chat, and she was tuning in from the trendy 11th arrondissement, which we also talk about. Her new book is called The New Parisienne, available for pre-orders everywhere. Check out her website, lostincheeseland.com, or on Instagram, lostincheeseland. And the same as what I said before, leave a comment, put an extra like, where you'd usually go, I'm not going to like, do a double like, that kind of thing. And, of course, pre-order her book, Here's What Happened When I Spoke with Lindsay. Lindsay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Lindsay, how are you?
Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm pretty, I'm staying positive. That's positive.
Good. That's what we need.
Let's start by winding back the clock to when you were first on this show. That was a long time ago.
So long ago. 3 years ago, probably.
3 years, right? Do you remember that? We were in that old studio. It was on a weekend. You remember that? It was like a Saturday morning.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Things
your show has evolved quite a bit since then.
That's true. Although
in a big way.
Well, thank you. Same great guest though, Lindsay. I'm glad to have you on the show. I'm glad to have you back. And then you've been on the show a bunch of times since, but the big news is that you've written a new book, which we're going to talk about, but also how the lockdown and everything has affected that as well as everything else. But shall we start with, you live in what many call the trendy 11th, don't you?
I do live in the 11th. Well, trend is certainly, insignificant now because my street looks probably what your street looks like, which is pretty desolate at most times of day. I luckily within my 1 kilometer permitted radius, I have Rue Oberkampf, and so that's a big market street, and that's where I can get a lot of cheese and breads and, go get produce and things like that. So that gives a certain life to my neighborhood, but it's true that it's, a small fragment of what it usually is and usually feels like. And I can hear birds chirping like first thing in the morning for hours. And it's quite unusual. I mean, it's lovely in a lot of ways and it's peaceful, but it's not the normal Paris.
What's the market scene like down on Oberkampf?
So all of the actual open air markets have been shut down, but the stores themselves are still open almost every day. They have slightly shorter hours, and obviously you can only go in like 3 at a time, or at my cheese shop it's only 1 person at a time. But people are adjusting, and I think seeing the familiar faces of the baker and the cheesemonger is part of getting through this. I want them to survive, and I think they want to see people that they recognize.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're really, soldiering through at a really rough time.
Sure.
And are quite alone. I mean, my cheesemonger, she runs the shop with her mother usually, but her mother is, much older and so is considered at risk and so has been at home. So the cheesemonger is now running the store by herself, which means that she basically doesn't see anybody all day.
Wow. Does it feel weird for you as a Philadelphia native to have a cheesemonger?
It's been so long that I don't remember, I got cheese probably from a supermarket or like a specialty big grocer in Philly, but that feels like ancient history.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. What about, I'm interested what else you've got within your kilometer. You got the canal?
Yeah, so I can get to part of the canal technically at some point. Like basically, if I go to where 10 Bells is, that level, the coffee shop, that's too far. That's beyond my radius.
Right.
And on the other end, I can't go to Bastille. That's also just outside of my radius.
Right.
So before they imposed the 1 kilometer thing, I did a walk to Place des Vosges in the very beginning, and then that was a one-time thing because it's also beyond my limit. So, I do loops and I take small streets if I'm going for a walk, but it's pretty limited.
Yeah. Have you been stopped by police yet?
No. So that time I was at Place des Vosges, I saw police, but they kind of just were like, they didn't even bother me. They didn't check my documentation.
Yeah.
And since then, I actually think I've seen them go by in my neighborhood and they haven't stopped me or anybody else. So I don't really, I'm a bit frustrated because there are still pockets of people who are convening and doing things they shouldn't, and I'm like, hello,
yeah,
this is what you're supposed to be patrolling for.
Well, there's a lot of police up in Montmartre actually, and they've stopped me a couple of times. Tell me, listen, let's talk about your daily life, how it's changed. I mean, as an author, daily life is a kind of a weird concept anyway, but you do other stuff as well, right?
Well, yeah. So I've still been writing. I work as a journalist, so I did have some work. I mean, I've had work. It's definitely not as much as normal, but I have had, especially pandemic-related stories to write. A lot of U.S. media want to know what it's like from someone who's on the ground and isn't reporting like the medical aspect, just more of the cultural experience. And so I've done that, and then. But, I've stayed busy in other ways. So either it's like looking into other, media that I could be pitching to, media that isn't suffering, and also checking in with previous clients because I do some copywriting consulting work, editorial consulting. And, so there were things that were in discussion before the lockdown. And I wanted to check in with them and see if the budgets were still going to be maintained and is the project still on the table? So I had a little bit of that to do. And then really trying to give myself idle time because when you're writing anyway, you need that downtime. And rather than try to fill every minute with reading the press, which just is it can be very overwhelming and terrifying. I'm trying to sort of get a hold of my own anxiety about the situation and use the time to just be. So And that's not necessarily something that's specific to this circumstance. I had started to try to do more of that instead of, just scrolling and scrolling on my phone or whatever in the moments when I was like, not super busy, or when I was, having trouble getting through a paragraph or whatever, getting started, rather than do that, just like sit and look out the window. And so I'm just sort of continuing that. And now that's obviously a bigger part of.
Sure. Did I see that you're learning Italian on Duolingo?
I am. And
how's it going?
I'm not saying it's good. It's been like 25 days straight.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I'm not suggesting that anyone should feel like they have to do that, because, you read these things about like how to make the most of this time.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm a proponent of.
Sure.
It's just that actually my husband, who's still been working, full weeks, he works with a lot of people in Spain. And so he already wanted to learn Spanish to be able to like take that working relationship a little bit further. And so I thought, well, if you're going to do that, why don't I use this as an opportunity that I've always put off to teach myself Italian?
Why don't you do Spanish as well?
Because I am part Italian, and so I feel like it's part of like connecting with my roots.
Sure.
But I will tell you, it is putting me back into like that I'm trying to like reconnect with what it was like when I was learning French, many years ago. And it's really challenging, the memorization part. So like because I speak French, a lot of it is I can understand, and I can, I read a sentence and I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to conjugating verbs, I'm like, oh my God, it's pure memorization, and it's really tricky.
What about the new Parisienne?
So this is my second book. It looks at the women of Paris, but, trying to move away from this very problematic archetypal image that we have of the Parisienne, and going deeper, talking about, all of her diversity, all of the ways in which, women are contributing incredible things to this city. And so I put forward more than 40 women. It's conversations, profiles. There are a few itineraries also in the book. And it's a discussion about, like reality essentially, and trying to paint a more realistic picture about what women here are living and thinking.
Did I hear a rumor that you snagged Madame Anne Hidalgo for this book?
I did.
How did you do that? That's amazing.
I basically harassed her, her inner circle for months and months and months and months.
Yeah. What's she like?
She's very, very nice. She's very busy. Like you'd think she's the president.
Yeah. She's the mayor of Paris, I should say, for everyone at home.
Yes.
The mayor of Paris.
And she honestly, there's something that I mean, of course there are people who disagree, but I find her to be very human, as the French love to say. Like she's got a very down to earth and understanding aura about her. And I think part of that has to do with the way she was brought up. She's not from a well-to-do family at all. She was an immigrant herself. There's a lot of things that go into how she came to be where she is that I think she doesn't lose sight of. So that I really appreciate about her. And essentially because I wrote a profile of her, what I really needed from her was not her whole life story, because, she's a public figure and I know a lot of that. Mm. It was more specific commentary on, very, very certain aspects of, imagining Paris in the future.
Cool.
And so she was very able to respond to that.
Well, I will be getting my copy of the book just for that alone, not to mention all the other good stuff in there. But you've had delays to your publication. It's an unusual time to publish a book, huh, Lindsay?
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, it's very tricky because in this case, I've known for 2 years what the date was supposed to be, the publication date, and you work toward that. You plan for that. You think about that, and because all of this sort of blew up right in this like. Okay, it was early enough that we could adjust and put everything on hold that we were working on in terms of the official rollout. there were some decisions that needed to be made within, the span of an afternoon. And one of those decisions was, do we keep the April 21st pub date, given that there are a lot of retailers that are either closed, can't fulfill orders, can't receive new shipments of books anyway, even if they could sell them, or do we postpone the date? And so we decided to postpone it to July 7th. So I'm happy because it still comes out like soon. And I think that given the topic, it would have been it would have been very disappointing to move it any further than that. And also you run the risk of then being in the mix of, a whole new season of new releases, and you're competing for attention when, your book was sort of slated to come out with books that wouldn't cannibalize it, in terms of, when it comes out from the same publisher. So it was a big consideration to make, but ultimately, I hope that it was the right one. And, the one fortunate thing I will say is that I was already starting to ramp up, communication about it and try to drive people to pre-order. And that isn't lost, that effort is still sort of visible. But now I announced the changes, and I announced, what this feels like being an author at this time. But then now I take my foot off the brake a little bit, and then I'll ramp up again, later in May. So in some respects, it feels like I can maybe better strategize now because I have more time, in the sense that I'm not working on 10 billion other things at the same time. Mm-hmm. But it also means strategizing in a context that is unfamiliar to both me and the publisher and the retailers, and who knows which retailers are going to reopen by the time July comes around. So it's still a big question mark, but at the same time, I do feel that on the very positive side, that readers are hungry for other things, and they're looking to support people whose work they appreciate. So I've been very touched by the people who have reached out and said, "Don't worry, you'll get through this," and as will you, Oliver. This is it's totally it's of course unexpected, and I think we're just doing the best that we can. And at the end of the day, what more can we do?
Yeah, it is a weird time, but it'll get back to normal. This too shall pass. What about time? We're sort of running out of time here, but I got two more questions for you.
Okay.
You also have a podcast, The New Paris. How's that going? Is that on hold? Putting more?
No, so it's been a little bit tricky because you've already been able to record, everywhere and anywhere, and I was not set up so comfortably. So at the very beginning of confinement, I bought a better mic and some headphones that are only USB compatible. So of course I can't even use them with our discussion right now. Now, but and I'm figuring it out myself. I do have some help still with post-production and editing, but it's been good, and I'm enjoying it because it shows me that I do have more flexibility than I thought. I can talk to people who can't come into the studio, and but it's certainly way more work.
Yep, I feel you. Let me know if you're looking for a guest for your show, because I got nothing to do, Lindsay.
That's not true. You've been hustling, and
yeah, that's true actually.
Honestly,
I've got lots to do. Forget I ever said that. Forget it. All right. No, but I did have one last question for you, which was when all this is over and you're allowed to go out without a permission slip again, what's the first thing you want to do?
Assuming that the coffee shops are open,
everything's open.
Maybe I won't sit inside and linger like I usually do, but I will definitely go have a cappuccino from one of my favorite spots, because I have not had a milk-based coffee drink in almost 2 months. Well, it'll be over 2 months.
Yeah.
I feel like
you can name the coffee shops.
Ecstasy, yes. Dream and Man, Cafe Oberkampf, Cafe Lustig, Fringe, Back in Black, all the places that make exceptional coffees.
Good. Yes, I have
way more. I could literally start listing everybody in the city. They all make amazing
we got your top 5, and we know that that's what you absolutely intended to be the top 5. Everything else, but hopefully, Lindsay, I'll see you in one of those coffee shops before too long. But thanks for giving me your time today.
I really hope so.
Until then.
There you have it once again. That was Lindsay Tramuta. LostInCheeseland.com is the best place to start. Now, our next guest, someone I've known for a while, met her in a tunnel, as you're about to hear, Sophie Nadeau, or Nadeau, or Nadeau, however you want to pronounce it. It is a French name. She runs Solo Sophie. You can check her out on solosophie.com, or on Instagram, it's Sophie Anne Nadeau. Sophie, ANNENADEAU. I'll tag them all on Instagram if you're that kind of person. But here, we chat about plants, we chat about the dangers or difficulties of going out during the night in Paris on lockdown, and also how a travel website with 500,000 visitors a month suffers during a pandemic.
Sophie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Is that a British accent?
Yes, it is. You heard correctly.
I did. Well, I did know, and we do go quite a long way back, but I just thought I'd put it out. I'd tackle it from the beginning. Where are you from in England?
So I'm from the southwest of England, but actually my dad's Canadian, French Canadian. So I kind of spent time in Canada and the UK.
Hence the French name.
Yes.
Do people think you're French just based on the name?
All of the time I get all of these messages in French, and actually my written French is really bad. So it's really embarrassing when I reply and I've got all these mistakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't even try and write French messages. I'd just switch to English if I were in your boat. But so you are known in some circles as Solo Sophie.
Yes, that's correct. I have a blog of that name, although my social media handles are all over the place.
Right, and we go back until we met in a tunnel, basically, huh?
Yeah, there was that metro extension that we were all invited to go and look at, which was quite cool, but a bit weird as a way of meeting.
That was so they're extending the metro line into the 17th arrondissement, and they just invited people. The whole thing was a bit weird, wasn't it? They were like, "Come and have a look," and we're like, "Cool." We were wearing hard hats and stuff, right?
And the high-vis jackets, and then we had that presentation in that little porter cabin, and then they said, "Okay, well, now we're going to bring you into the underground," and we went down all those steps, and then we were just allowed to kind of walk in the tunnel.
Yeah, that was so weird. It was one of those things where, when they invited it, when I got that invitation, I was like, "This is either going to be super cool or super weird and lame." But I was wrong. I think it was somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I loved meeting everyone, and it was really interesting to see, but it was definitely an unusual experience. It wasn't like the typical, come to our museum exhibition or something like that. It was strange.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't normal. But we can put that down to the magic of Paris, I think, and move on to more magic, including your blog. Lovely blog. You capture the essence of the city. Great Instagram stories as well. I've been enjoying watching them lately. But I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how you sort of monetized the blog and how a lockdown has either ruined that or turned it around, or I'm interested to hear where you're at.
So I started my blog about 5 years ago, and it was just a hobby. I kind of escaped from my studies. I studied classics at uni, and I just wanted a way to talk about history, museums in the more modern days. And so I started that. And then around 2 years after starting it, I had enough traffic and I graduated uni and I went full time on it. So basically the main way I used to monetize before the pandemic was I had display adverts on the blog. That was the bulk of my income. So once you generate enough traffic, you make more money. And I also had affiliates. So when I sold a tour or something, I would get a cut of that via a link. I also used to sell my photos and things like that. It's all kind of gone downhill since the start of everything, because to be honest, my traffic has definitely taken a hit, as you can imagine, because no one's searching for travel destinations. And even the people who are searching RPMs, that's the amount you get paid per 1,000 visitors, that's definitely plummeted too. I am trying to carry on creating content though, because I'm hopeful, or maybe I don't know, I'm hopeful that travel will return once more. And I also want to carry on creating content that people can enjoy from the comfort of their homes.
And you, Like, I think a lot of people, maybe even a lot of the listeners to this show, when they hear blogger and they hear traffic, they probably have no idea what constitutes a lot of traffic, but you really do have a lot of people reading your stuff. Is that public, the number of viewers, or?
Yeah, it is. I think it's even on my website. So I before everything went down, I used to get around 500,000 hits a month.
That's incredible. And now that's gone downhill. Do you think why do you think people aren't armchair traveling as much as, like, were they all people planning trips, or?
So actually there's a few different ways. I used to I still drive traffic to my site. There's Pinterest, which is more of an inspiration thing, so I get quite a lot of traffic from Pinterest. And then there's Google searches, and that's people really planning their itinerary. So they'll search how to spend one day in Paris, and that's before they're actually coming to Paris. So I think that kind of traffic has definitely gone downhill, because people are obviously not planning for trips they can't take. But traffic from Pinterest is still stable, and traffic from Instagram, from driving it from my stories and stuff, that's still stable too, because people still want to armchair travel. They're not necessarily planning a trip, obviously, though.
So from a business perspective, I mean, obviously, forget about the terrible side of the story for a second, how it's affecting people. From a business perspective, did this freak you out, and is it continuing to freak you out, or have you found ways around it?
It has. I'm not going to lie, it's definitely very, very scary from a business perspective, because I'm sure that you have the same thing. I look at my business like my baby. It's literally, it's so dear to my heart, and I poured blood, sweat, tears into it for years and years. And while I'm still getting traffic on my site, I'm still getting readers, and I'm really happy that people are still supporting me. But it's definitely a hit when your readers, when your numbers are going down and your income's going down, and you think, oh, how am I going to carry on sustaining this? That's definitely a hit to,
Yeah, I know what you mean. But what about, like, are you experimenting with different ways of doing what you do?
Yeah, so I'm definitely trying to pivot my content to the kind of thing that people can really enjoy at home. I want people to be able to still enjoy Paris from the comfort of their own homes, because it's such a magical city. As you know, we've both chosen to come and live here. It's just amazing, and I want people to be able to experience that still. So I've been doing a lot of armchair travel guides, virtual tour guides, how to recreate the Paris experience in your own home. Cool. I've been doing virtual tours on my Instagram stories, so I'll do little archive footage with some information and things like that, little tours around various arrondissements.
Cool. I saw the Marais one the other day. That was cool.
I want people to be able to enjoy Paris still, and it's really hard, as you know, to convey the magic of Paris online.
Yeah. What about you? So you have been back and forth to Paris for years, but sort of moved here full time a couple months ago, and now you're central Paris. What's it like down there at the moment? I've not talked to someone in that sort of center of the dartboard where you live. What are you getting out very much? Do you see much?
I see a lot of my neighbors. We're watching each other all day, every day, to be honest.
Oh yeah? What? Seen anything good?
I'm very jealous of some of my neighbors' plant collections, to be honest.
Wow.
But back on the ground here, I've been out 6 or 7 times in the last, is it almost 6 weeks now?
It's something like that, yeah.
And I've been alone as well, so it's really weird to be in solitary lockdown. I'm sure it's difficult to be in every situation, but it's definitely weird saying, oh, I haven't been within 2 meters of another person in 6 weeks now. That's so weird to me. So what, you're only going out for food shopping then, or? I've been out for a food shop once a week, and I've been on 2 or 3 walks. But honestly, I don't really enjoy going out that much, because I do get worried that I'm going to get checked by the police, even though that's fine. We're allowed to go out. But I get a lot of anxiety about going out. Yeah. And I don't really like how many communal doors there are to go out into the outside world. I'm sure you know the feeling. Yeah, no, it's weird, and it's also confusing. Even just talking on this show now to different people over the past couple of weeks, there's not many people I've talked to who are confident in what the rules are and knowing that they're sticking within them. You know, like there's a definite sense of confusion about what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. I think it's that, as well as I think exercise, we're not allowed to do exercise between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. So obviously at 7 p.m. I go out for a run, and then half of Paris is running at the same time. And in the centre of Paris here, they've closed the parks. I think you're not allowed to go along the Seine anymore. But more than anything, the streets are really, really narrow here. So we're all kind of on top of each other, which makes me nervous to be running, and then we're brushing past each other. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. It's really narrow down around. That's probably the worst place to run with lots of people.
all running higgledy-piggledy. It's not like the marathon or something where everyone's going in the same direction. Plus everyone's like, I notice when people are running, they're trying to avoid each other a little bit. So everyone's sort of zigzagging too. Like respect that 2 meters while running at full speed in different directions. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's been really hard. That's honestly why I haven't gone out that much, because every time I go out, there's so many of us out on the streets at the same time.
I haven't gone for many runs, but I did one like late at night in Montmartre, and it was so cool. Like no one was out. It was late. I don't know. It was maybe 10 or 11 o'clock. Can recommend that perhaps.
I don't know if I can do that. To be honest, I don't really like going out at night on my own right now, because as a girl, it's not really ideal. Even going out during the day, every time I've been out for a walk or a run, I've been catcalled.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, okay. Well, then the only solution is treadmill, I guess.
I'm not sure would one fit into your apartment. I'm not sure.
No, I couldn't do it. Although I've seen some people have got like their own bike and turn their bicycle into an exercise bike by like lifting the back wheel up off the ground. I've seen a few of those. I think everyone's pivoting in different ways to make this work. But Sophie, we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you when everything's back to normal, and I mean everything, so all the shops are open and everything, is there one thing that you're particularly looking forward to doing in Paris again?
I'm looking forward to going for coffees with my friends, of course, but I'm looking forward to buying more plants.
You're a bit of a plant head. Is that a thing? How many plants have you got? I can see them behind you now.
I think I've got over 100 at my apartment now, which is a bit ridiculous because I'm in 30 meters squared and there's more plants than floor space, I think.
That's amazing. That picture you put on Instagram with like all 100 together under the window, I was like, if they were cats, you'd be a crazy cat lady, right?
I know, and I really want to get a cat now too. I think that would be ideal.
But it was a lovely picture, as all your pictures are lovely, and hopefully you can send me some over that I can share on the website so people know what we're talking about. But Solo Sophie is the name, and we'll be sure to link to all your stuff in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been really wonderful.
So there you have it, guys. 3 interesting women doing, not just 3, a bunch of interesting things around Paris. As I said, go and give them all a little like or a follow if you're not doing it already. There'll be links in the show notes below, and I've got pictures and more on theeiffeltower.com. As for me, guys, well, like I said, I've been in lockdown. I'm trying to stay creative. I'm doing my best. I'll talk a bit more about what I'm up to in another episode. But in short, I'm keeping busier than ever. I've been doing the pub quizzes every Saturday night, free to watch on YouTube. Go and subscribe. If you really like the work that I'm doing, then please consider signing up for a small monthly payment to become a Patreon member. It's super easy to do, and the people who are in there say that they're having the time of their life. So why not check it out and see what you think? Patreon.com/theearfultower. If you sign up today, or indeed in the coming days, you'll see that I'm releasing my audiobook every day, 6 p.m. on the dot. I release a new chapter, and then people are sort of talking about it below. It's kind of fun in that community. Otherwise, you can get the book via my website, theeiffeltower.com. That'll do for me today. I'll talk to you all again soon. I've got some great guests lined up for upcoming episodes and plenty more videos and more on the way. Hope everything is alright with you wherever you are, and thanks for listening to this podcast. It means a great deal to me. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.